Hi, 8th grade. Good to see you today. Our spirit day today, May the 4th, be with you. It's kind of celebrating Star Wars Day. Star Wars fans adopted May 4th because it sounds a lot like the phrase that we often hear in Star Wars movies, May the Force be with you. So May 4th and May the 4th. So all Star Wars fandom adopted May 4th. May the Force be with you. And I must admit, I really like Star Wars. I like the story by George Lucas. I like the cinematography, the hope, the idea of the Jedi, and the power within the Jedi to transform for good. So I have a few of our characters with us. C-3PO and R2-D2, Darth Vader, Chewbacca, gotta love Chewbacca, and of course one of my favorites, Yoda. I have been watching Star Wars movies for a long time and sharing the stories with others. And I'm a little bit of a collector, a little bit, not like a big collector, but one thing I do have, which I thought I would share with you, is my own lightsaber that I made. Had an opportunity to make this, and I selected the lightsaber that was most in line with, let's call it Yoda and his thoughts. Yeah. And mine is green. Might be hard to tell, but mine is green. And that's Yoda's color as well. Not so much into the red because not so much into the dark side. But I do like green and blue. And this is just a perfect lightsaber for me. And I didn't know if you might, ever wonder, does Dr. Dunaway have a lightsaber? And yeah, I do. It even has a clip right here. So if I want to hang it on my belt, or I need to throw it over my shoulder if I'm going somewhere, I need to carry it with me. It's kind of like having a case that only for my lightsaber. So I hope you read a little bit of the Star Wars saga and catch up on George Lucas and how he created this. Really started thinking about it when he was a child, which is just incredible to think of that, his imagination. And again, thank you for sharing this time with me, and may the Force be with you. All right, it's time to read now. The Greatest Treasure Hunt in History. We love this book, and we are sad because one of the Monuments Men was killed in an artillery in combat. So we are now on page 171 in the middle of the page. Trier, Germany, March 1945. The Odd Couple, Captain Robert Posey and Private First Class Lincoln Kirstein, didn't prove to be very odd at all. Far from pushing them apart, the demands of war had threaded their differences into a tightly woven team. The pace at which General Patton's Third Army was liberating cities created plenty of work for the two Monuments Men, but they still made time to identify people they believed might know something, anything, about the whereabouts of the Ghent altarpiece. In the French town of Metz, they had spoken with a civilian who had worked with Kunstschutz. The man had only heard rumors, but word had it the Ghent altarpiece could be found in an underground bunker at the nearby fortress of Ehrenbreitstein, or possibly inside one of Göring's homes, or even the Führer's home in Berchtesgaden, the Berghof. It might even have been taken to Switzerland, or some other neutral country? It was difficult to say. That sobering conversation provided just a sampling of the challenges the two monuments men faced in trying to find a single object in such a vast amount of space during war. Passing through Luxembourg, they sought out and asked local museum directors if they knew the location of the Ghent altarpiece. One of the directors indicated that indeed he did know. It's in a salt mine somewhere, possibly in the south, or perhaps in a subterranean vault in the Berlin Reichsbank. In other words, he too had no idea where it was hidden. The same could be said for the people and places Posey and Kirstein saw during the rest of March. When they reached 3rd Army Base in the German town of Trier, perhaps the oldest city in Europe and one of the largest in the Roman Empire, they couldn't believe the level of destruction. Kirstein, with a great appreciation for the city's storied history and its early Christian, Romanesque, and Baroque architecture, recorded the scene in a letter back home. The desolation is frozen, as if the moment of combustion was suddenly arrested, and the air had lost its power to hold atoms together, and various centers of gravity had a dogfight for matter, and matter lost. Only 2,000 of the 90,000 inhabitants remained in Trier, and most of them lived a bare existence, seeking shelter in a series of wine cellars. Certainly, St. Lo was worse, but it didn't have anything of importance, Kirstein added. Here, everything was early Christian or Roman or Romanesque or marvelous Baroque. By March 29th, after overseeing protection programs in Trier, Posey had to address a toothache that he had been ignoring for several weeks. With very limited German-speaking skills, Kirstein sought help from a young blonde boy they passed in the street, using 3 sticks of peppermint gum and a few humorous moments pantomiming a sore tooth, and it worked. Hand in hand, the boy and Kirstein led Posey to a dentist's office just a few blocks away. Their luck continued inside as the friendly old dentist spoke English. Question followed question, even while treating Posey's impacted wisdom tooth. The dentist wanted to know where Posey and Kirstein were from, what they did in civilian life, and all about their mission as monuments men. Kirstein had to turn away at the sight of what followed, but Posey's scream told all. A few moments later, without missing a beat, the dentist insisted they speak with his son-in-law, an art scholar who'd been in Paris during the occupation. The dentist didn't have a car, and his son-in-law lived in a remote valley, but he offered to accompany the monuments men and serve as their guide. The trip took twice the time it should have due to stops the dentist insisted on making along the way. When he returned to the Jeep with vegetables and bottles of wine instead of information, Kirstein and Posey, whose head felt like it was going to explode, began to suspect it was a trap. More than 12 miles from Trier, with fewer and fewer white pillowcases and sheets indicating surrender flying from homes, the two monuments men considered turning around. Suddenly, the old dentist tapped Posey on the shoulder and pointed to a small weekend cottage sitting on a low hill. The smile on his face told them they had arrived. A man in his mid-30s greeted them, speaking French, and introduced his mother, wife, and their 2 children. His name was Herman Bonger. They entered the modest home to find bookshelves filled with scholarly tomes, walls lined with photographs of many of Paris's most famous sites, and small vases filled with flowers from the early blossoms of spring. For a moment, all thoughts of war vanished. After exchanging pleasantries, the 4 men took a seat around the family table. Before Posey or Kirstein could ask their first question, Bonger started recounting his experience in Paris working for Reichsmarshal Hermann Göring. Without revealing their surprise, the 2 monuments men sat in stunned silence and listened. Yes, it was true. He had joined the Nazi Party in 1938, but he resigned the following year when he entered service in the Wehrmacht. As to his service to Göring, Alfred Rosenberg and the Nazi looting organization, the ERR. It had but one purpose: the protection of art. Posey and Kirstein quickly realized that this was a man eager to tell a story, one that sounded rehearsed, as if Bonget had prepared it for the day of reckoning he surely knew would come. Without breaking stride, Bonget continued. When he advised the Reichsmarshal on February 5, 1941, that the confiscation of Jewish property violated the Hague Convention's rules of land warfare, Göring simply raised his hand and said, "First, it is my orders that you have to follow. You will act directly according to my orders." Bonget didn't let it go, pointing out that the German military commanders in France probably wouldn't agree with the Reichsmarshal. "Dear Bonget," Göring replied, "let me worry about that. I am the highest jurist in the state." We're going to stop there at the bottom, page 174. I hope you're thinking through some of the names that you're hearing in this, not just the monuments men, but we've heard General Eisenhower, and you know that Eisenhower became President Eisenhower following the war. You're hearing Patton, General Patton, who is considered one of the greatest military generals of the century, really of all time. So I think that this book provides so much in putting the pieces together of the war and of Nazi Germany, as well as the American, if you will, we'll call it that for now, response, not just the monuments men. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a really good evening, and may the 4th be with you. Bye now.